Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave. This is Olive, otherwise known as Bat Dog, this month of the year. So, we're into October. As usual, this video should have gone up a week ago, but better late than never. If you've been around for a while, you know that every October we read Halloween-themed books. That's always what we focus on. And so we've done that like a number of years now, so that we've read a fair number of short Halloween books. And so we thought we would put together a list of 10 books for all of you if you're looking for something Halloween themed for the spooky season. Now, I know a lot of people read horror during October, but these are actual Halloween specific books, because that's what we like to read around the holiday, and figured maybe other people do too. So we've read a bunch. We've left some off. These are not all great, but they're all pretty decent. We've left a few off the list that are not that great or weren't really like super Halloween-y, even though they present themselves as that way. So we'll jump right into it. I won't say too much about each one. Number one, because some of them I won't remember a tremendous amount of detail, but also we're just going to give you the books quick. Each of these books has its own dedicated video that we've done over the years, so we will link all of those below in case you want to go do a little bit more of it. Each of those has its own dedicated video that deep dives into the book a little bit more, so in case you want to examine a little bit more about the book before you decide to go out and get it for yourself. So coming in at number 10 is All Hallows Eve by Richard Lehman. So this is, doing them in order, this is our least favorite of the 10, but this is a good novel for those out there that like their horror violent, like a traditional Richard Lehman book. Briefly, what this is about is there's these two main characters. There's a sheriff that is dating someone, and her son, his name was Eric, and these are like the two central characters. And Eric is a little troubled kid. It's centered around Halloween. There's this house, this famous house, where there was years ago a family was murdered in this house. And the kids around town start getting these mysterious invitations to go to a Halloween party at this house. But of course, our main character, the boy Eric, he also likes this. He has this crush on this girl at school, and she is doing a competing Halloween party. So there's these competing Halloween parties going on, a lot more going on behind the scenes, and in traditional Richard Lehman fashion, it's a lot of violence, a lot of graphic violence, a lot of sexual descriptions. So if that's your bag, this would be a good Halloween-y book for you. Okay, coming in at number 9, I don't have a physical copy of this now, so this is The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. So this is a famous classic, some would say geared more towards a younger audience, but I think many people enjoy this book. It's a little further down on our list because we didn't like it quite as much as most people do, but this was a fun story. And what this centers around, a group of kids that are going to meet on Halloween night at this house. And one of their friends, Pipkin, who's supposed to meet them there, ends up not being able to make it. He disappears. And when they show up at this house, they go around back and they see this Halloween tree, like jack-o'-lanterns or pumpkins hanging from the tree. And they meet this entity called Mr. Moundshroud. And they discover that that their friend Pipkin has kind of been taken, and they kicks them off on the adventure to get Pipkin, and really it's a little bit of a time travel story. And they go back in time, and they learn a bit about all the precursors of Halloween. Samhain, the old, has a lot of Celtic pagan holiday that has a lot of its Halloween can trace a lot of its roots to, and ancient Egypt and Rome, and just a lot of different precursors of Halloween. And it's a bit of it's a fun time travel story, but it's also a bit of an education. You learn a lot about these different previous Halloween type holidays and where a lot of the traditions come from. Things like ghosts and witches, and why we put treats out, give treats out, things like that. So, it's a fun little story, and a lot of people love it. So, always a good choice. Okay, next We have a few of these are collections of short stories. So this one is The Halloween Store and Other Tales of All Hallows Eve by Ronald Kelly. And so this is a book of all Halloween stories, and we're staying true to that through all these. All these are very Halloweeny. All these books, these are all very Halloweeny stories, including the title story, The Halloween Store, which is a good one. And so, and in addition to that, there's also Ronald Kelly, who's more close to my age. Also has a couple of essays in here that are kind of just like Halloween nostalgia, where especially if you're older, they're kind of fun. They bring back some memories of what Halloween was like in the old days. Next one, this is what, number 7, is another Ronald Kelly story collection. This is Mr. Glowbones and Other Halloween Tales. So once again, a collection of very Halloweeny short stories, and also a couple of essays. Again, that again are some nostalgic essays, bring back some things to be remembered about Halloween in years gone by. So once again, very enjoyable. Very similar to the other book. It's amazing Ronald Kelly wrote so many Halloween specific stories, but he did. And Mr. Glowbones is, I think these stories were all published different places over the years, and then relatively recently collected in these books. I think they were both published around the same time, the same year, 2020 or something like that. But Mr. Glowbones, that story was written first, because there's the story about Mr. Glowbones that is where he is I think a dad and his kids go up in the attic and discover this old Mr. Glowbones decoration. And of course, there's more to it than that. And in the other book, the Halloween Store, the story, The Halloween Store, Mr. Glowbones is in the store. So there's that connection. A couple connections between stories in the two books. So another good collection and great for Halloween time. Okay, and then next we have, coming in at number 6, we have one more Halloween collection, and this is Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney. Those booktube horror lovers among you out there know Cameron Chaney. Probably has a very popular horror booktube channel called Library Macabre, and he wrote this book, and it's a great collection. This is a very, very atmospheric book. Really, really puts you in the mood for Halloween and comes at it from different angles. There's a nice assortment of stories in here. Some of it's like, there's a lot of basically Halloween magic going on in this story. And I say, like, a lot of it is, like, some of it's cozy Halloween magic, some of it's scary Halloween magic, and there's even a little bit of sci-fi Halloween magic in here. So it's really, really puts you in the mood for the holiday, and really nice collection of stories. Okay, number 5 is a novella called Halloween Fiend by C.V. Hunt. So this is a short book that was a great spooky little story. This is a tale of there's this unknown town where the people are all seem to be trapped there. And there is this monster, Halloween, that goes around that town every night. And the townspeople have this ritual where every night they put treats out on their porch for Halloween, so that Halloween will just take the treats and leave them be. Except for one night of the year, Halloween, where the town actually has this big festival. And we follow this main character that he works, I think, at the local supermarket, and he lives with his elderly dad, and is kind of down on his luck, and he's really, the sheriff of the town is a real jerk, and is really on top of him all the time. And so that's the main character we follow, and this was a really good story. Very, very well written, and a lot of great imagery, especially like when you see the creature Halloween, and just like a lot of it's a pretty emotive book, and a lot of great imagery. So this was really, really good. This was a really good short little book to really put you in the mood for the Halloween season. Okay, then number 4, we have The Halloween Children by Brian James Freeman and Norman Prentice. So this one has an interesting publication history. I forget the details. You have to go check the other video, which I'll have linked below, but where I went into it more. But this one it was published by some publisher that like each year they publish one book, and then anyway later it was republished by Cemetery Dance. And I don't really hear about this book that much, but this book is really, really good. This centers around so there's this apartment complex, and the manager of the apartment complex, kind of a jerk, cancels Halloween, I think for safety reasons. And so you follow this book. This book deals a lot with perspective, and so you follow the story from a couple different perspectives. And there's this couple that you have some issues, and so a lot of the story is told through the wife's, basically transcripts of the wife's therapy sessions, or just her therapy sessions, and then a lot of the husband's perception of events is told through later transcripts. And then you also see a little bit from another tenant there that's kind of causes some trouble. And I think that was through the emails that you see from that tenant. And so there's some stuff. And so there's these two kids, that are excited about Halloween. The couple have two children, and they're excited about Halloween. And, the couple, like I said, there's a lot about perception, and Halloween's coming and things are happening. There's things going on in this apartment complex. And, the couple is kind of a little too preoccupied with what each other is doing and what each other is thinking, and not really paying attention to the things that they should be paying attention to. So very Halloween-y story, as you can tell from from the title. And it was really, really good. Really good. One of those books was good on multiple levels. It was an exciting, fast-paced, heart-racing Halloween story, but also was a little bit deeper in sort of like the aspects of perception that it explored. So, it was pretty interesting narratively. Okay, then number 3 is Horrorween by Al Sarantonio. And so this is the longest book on the list, but this is on here because it is actually made up of 3 shorter tales. So this is a fix-up novel. If you don't know what a fix-up novel is, it's when they're more popular back in the day, it's when somebody would take a number of shorter stories and make a novel out of them, connect them all, and create a novel. And so that's what this is, a fix-up novel. There's 3 separate stories. It's made up of 3 separate stories. Hornets, Pumpkin Boy, I think, and I'm not going to remember. But anyway, so they all relate to, they're all tied together. They do feel a bit like 3 separate stories, but they're all good. And they are all tied together decently with this. So they take place in this town called Orangefield. And there's a lot of Halloween-y things happening. There's a pumpkin boy, I guess, and a pumpkin tenderer, and there's different. It's definitely a horror novel. It's definitely some Halloween stuff going on, and it's all tied together with this. So Samhain, which is the a Gaelic festival that has its roots in Celtic paganism. That is an old precursor to Halloween. That holiday is the holiday Samhain is personified in this creature Samhain, who kind of exerts a lot of negative influence over the town, sometimes directly and sometimes through others. And so that's kind of how the stories are tied together. So it is feel a little disjointed, but it is a decent job of putting it together, and it doesn't really matter. It's still an enjoyable read either way, all the way through. So highly recommend this. We really, really did enjoy this. There are 2 more in this series. There's one called Hallows Eve and one called Halloween Land. And I mention those only because this book you read first. The second book, Hallows Eve, was actually published before this, but the stories that make up this fixed-up novel, they were independently published, in a couple different publications before that. They were published first. So this is the book you want to read first if you're going to tackle this series. Okay, number 2 is a short story collection. This is Johnny Halloween, Tales of the Dark Season by Norman Partridge. And so this book, I have to say off the bat, this book is hard to get. I haven't seen this book. I've seen it in a few different editions, but always like limited special editions. So I don't know. It's going to be hard. It's hard to get at least a physical copy of this. But if you do, it is well worth it. So this is it's a collection of very, very Halloweeny stories, and they tend to be on the darker side. These are some pretty dark stories in here if you like that sort of thing. There is also an essay in here about the Zodiac Killer. So it's just like this one nonfiction thing in the middle of these fictional stories, but it really works. It's about if you know the Zodiac Killer, it was the first modern day serial killer that showed up in the 1960s that was never caught, and that just would show up periodically and kill people and just had people terrorized. And so that was really cool too. And like I said, the stories were all good and very dark. And the best part about this book is that the final story is called The Jack-O-Lantern, A Dark Harvest Tale. And this is a short story that relates to the number one book on this list, which is Dark Harvest, also by Norman Partridge. So this is, at least among Halloween fiction, this is a somewhat famous book. It came out in 2006, I think it was, and won the Bram Stoker Award, right? Yeah. And so this book is a great book on many levels. This book basically is set in a town, and it's another one of these, it's a no-name town where the people are all stuck there. And every year there's the event that happens. There's called the Hunt. And so there's this creature called the October Boy that shows up. And he is very Halloweeny. Jack-o'-lantern head, scarecrow clothes. His body's made of vines. He's stuffed with candy. And this October Boy tries to get to the center of town. And so there's this big event, the Hunt, where all the teenage boys in the town go on the hunt to kill the October Boy that night. And whoever kills the October Boy and wins the hunt, basically that's their ticket out. It's their ticket out of town, and their family gets money and cars. And so there is a lot going on. It is very fast-paced. It's a very exciting tale. It is a very Halloween-y, atmospheric tale. But there is also a lot happening. It's very well written. Some very cool things. There's a little bit of social commentary in there about society and societal behaviors. And Partridge does some cool things with the narrative in this book, where he periodically will switch. Told in third person, but he periodically will switch to the second person. I personally think, in order to kind of pull the reader out of the story a little bit and really hit on the social commentary aspect of it. Really great book for so many reasons. I could go on forever. And so the story that I mentioned in this book, in Johnny Halloween, there are some people in this book that called the Harvest Guild, that are some people like the sheriff and a couple men that kind of control some things behind the scene. And so the short story that's in Johnny Halloween is it's a short story that goes into a little bit of the history of the Harvest Guild and gives you a little insight into what's going on there and those people. So it was a very cool supplement to this very, very cool book. This also, I think just last year, was made into a movie, which was also pretty good. And we also have a separate video dedicated to the Dark Harvest universe, that movie, this book, and the short story, which we will also link below in case you're curious to go see that. So that's it. That's our top 10 of short Halloween books. Let us know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. We always love to hear from you, of course. But we hope if you haven't heard of some of these, maybe you'll try out one or two of these for the holiday season, dig into those, and hope that you have as good of a time with it as we did. Right, Bat Dog? Right? Yeah. You need another pick-me-up. So anyway, want to wish everybody a great start to the holiday season. I hope you enjoy this month, especially if you really love Halloween like we do. And let us know what you're reading, because we want to hear what everybody's getting into this season. So if you don't have anything substantive to say, you can always leave Olive a puppy emoji, because she does always like to see those. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again very soon, but in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and happy Halloween.